Look around you. Some men at 75 radiate vitality while others at 65 appear defeated. Society tells you aging means decline, a lie that costs you years of vibrant living. The difference isn't genetics, it's choices. Why some older people look younger than their age isn't about miracle creams or surgeries, it's about fundamental psychological and biological truths. Your cells respond to your mindset. Your body manifests your daily decisions. The path to youthful aging exists, but it demands something from you: responsibility. The question is, will you take it? You've noticed them. The men in their 70s who move with ease, whose eyes sparkle with vitality, who seem to defy time itself. What separates them from others who appear broken by the same number of years? It's not luck or genetics alone. It's something far more profound, a psychological framework that manifests physically. Let me show you why this matters more than any cream or procedure ever could. The mindset you carry about aging literally reshapes your cellular reality. I've seen this countless times in my clinical practice. Men who view aging as decline accelerate their own deterioration. It's as if they're signaling to their bodies, begin the shutdown sequence, and their biology complies. Consider the research on what psychologists call subjective age, how old you feel versus your chronological age. Those who feel younger than their actual age show better cognitive function, less inflammation, and slower physical decline. This isn't wishful thinking, it's measurable biology. Your cells respond to your psychological orientation. Now let's talk about responsibility versus victimhood. The men I've worked with who maintain youthfulness share a common trait. They refuse to blame their circumstances. They don't say, "I'm old now, so this is expected." Instead, they ask, "What can I still do about this?" This distinction is everything. When you accept responsibility for your aging process, you activate neural pathways associated with problem solving and growth. Your brain releases different chemicals, your posture changes, even your hormonal profile shifts. Victimhood, by contrast, triggers stress responses that accelerate cellular aging. I once counseled a 72-year-old professor who had begun to withdraw from life. "It's just what happens at my age," he told me. This narrative was literally killing him. After 6 months of cognitive restructuring, of challenging this belief and replacing it with responsibility, his entire physiology changed. His colleagues commented that he looked a decade younger. This brings us to purpose-driven living. Humans are meaning-seeking creatures. Without purpose, we wither, physically and psychologically. The research on this is unambiguous. Those with a clear sense of purpose show lower rates of Alzheimer's disease, heart conditions, and systemic inflammation. Let me be clear, your cells know when you're just going through motions versus when you're pursuing something meaningful. Purpose activates genetic expression patterns associated with longevity. It's not metaphorical, it's biological. I worked with a retired executive who had lost his sense of direction. His health was deteriorating rapidly. The intervention wasn't medic, it was existential. We identified where he could contribute meaningfully given his experience. Within months, his biomarkers improved. His skin regained elasticity. His eyes reclaimed their clarity. This is the foundation of youthful aging, the psychological architecture that determines how your body responds to time, not creams, not surgeries, but the fundamental orientation you take toward your own existence. When you shift from passive aging to active living, your body receives different instructions. Your immune system functions more efficiently. Your muscles preserve their integrity. Even your face reflects this internal reality. The lines of resignation transform into marks of experience and wisdom. Now let's move to something equally crucial. How your physical practices either accelerate or reverse the aging process. Because while mindset creates the foundation, what you do with your body daily writes the story that others see. You may have the right psychological foundation, but without proper physical practices, your body will still betray you. I've studied men who maintain extraordinary vitality into their 80s, and there's a pattern that emerges with absolute clarity. They understand movement as medicine. When you stop moving, you start dying. This isn't motivational nonsense. It's biological truth. Your muscular system requires consistent challenge to maintain integrity. After age 65, men typically lose 3 to 5% of muscle mass yearly through sarcopenia unless they actively resist it. The difference between the 80-year-old who needs help standing and the one who still hikes mountains isn't genetics. It's their relationship with physical resistance. I've observed countless men who transform their aging trajectory through what I call functional resistance. Movements that mimic real-life activities that maintain independence. Not isolated exercises on machines, but compound movements that integrate multiple muscle groups simultaneously. These men don't exercise for appearance. They train for capability. Let me be absolutely clear about something. Your body will adapt to whatever demands you place upon it, or fail to place upon it. If you demand nothing, it will become nothing. The biological mechanisms for rebuilding muscle tissue remain intact well into your 90s. The question isn't whether you can maintain strength, it's whether you're willing to do what's necessary. Now let's consider nutritional wisdom. The modern food environment is a catastrophe for aging well. Processed foods create systemic inflammation that accelerates cellular aging. In my clinical observations, men who maintain youthfulness follow a simple principle. They eat foods their grandparents would recognize. There's compelling evidence that inflammation drives visible aging. The skin that sags, the joints that ache, the brain fog that descends. These aren't inevitable consequences of time. They're largely the result of inflammatory processes triggered by what you consume daily. Your food isn't just calories, it's information for your cells. I worked with a 71-year-old who eliminated processed foods, refined carbohydrates and seed oils from his diet. Within 3 months, his inflammatory markers decreased by 60%. His skin regained elasticity. The puffiness around his eyes disappeared. Even his posture improved as joint pain subsided. This wasn't cosmetic, it was cellular restoration. This brings us to perhaps the most underappreciated aspect of youthful aging: sleep architecture. The quality of your sleep determines the quality of your cellular repair. During deep sleep, your body produces growth hormone, removes toxins from your brain, and repairs damaged DNA. Disrupted sleep accelerates every marker of aging we can measure. I've counseled men who transformed their appearance simply by prioritizing sleep quality. The dark circles vanish, skin tone evens, cognitive function sharpens, memory improves. The research is unequivocal. Mice poor sleep ages you faster than almost anything else. Consider this: a single night of disrupted sleep increases inflammatory markers and stress hormones that directly accelerate aging. When this becomes chronic, the effects compound. The men I've worked with who look youngest relative to their age invariably protect their sleep with almost religious devotion. Now, let's examine how your social connections literally reshape your cellular aging. Because the evidence suggests that loneliness might be more damaging than smoking or obesity when it comes to how quickly your body deteriorates, humans are fundamentally social creatures. This isn't just a platitude, Matt, it's hardwired into our biology. When I examine the research on aging, a profound truth emerges. Relationship vitality directly impacts physical vitality. The men who look youngest at advanced ages invariably maintain robust social connections. Your body interprets social isolation as a threat to survival. When you lack meaningful human contact, your stress hormones elevate, inflammation increases, your immune function decreases, even your sleep architecture deteriorates. This isn't psychological, Matt, it's physiological. Your cells age more rapidly when you're alone. I've counseled men who withdrew socially after retirement, believing it was a natural transition. Their health declined precipitously, not because of disease, but because their bodies were responding to the absence of connection. When we rebuilt their social networks deliberately and systematically, their physical transformation was remarkable. Their posture improved, their faces became more animated, their voices regained resonance. Now, let's consider something most aging experts miss entirely: intergenerational engagement. Men who maintain relationships exclusively with age peers accelerate their own aging. There's something biologically revitalizing about regular interaction with younger generations. It activates different neural pathways. It challenges linguistic patterns. It prevents social calcification. I worked with a 76-year-old who volunteered teaching woodworking to teenagers. Within months, his cognitive flexibility improved measurably. His movement patterns became more fluid. Even his vocabulary expanded. He wasn't just feeling younger, Matt. His body was responding to the neurological demands of cross-generational communication by activating regenerative processes. This isn't sentimentality. When you engage regularly with people of varied ages, your brain produces different neurotransmitters. Your vocal patterns shift. Your gestural range expands. These aren't superficial changes. They reflect fundamental alterations in your neurological functioning that manifest in how others perceive your age. Let's confront something uncomfortable: the burden of isolation. Most men over 65 experience shrinking social circles. Friends die, family disperses, professional networks fade. Unless you actively resist this narrowing, your body interprets it as the beginning of the end and responds accordingly. Your testosterone levels drop, your inflammatory markers rise, even your DNA repair mechanisms become less efficient. I've observed men who looked decades older than their chronological age, not because of genetics or lifestyle, but because of profound loneliness. Their faces literally collapsed inward, a physical manifestation of social withdrawal. The good news? This process reverses when connection is restored. The body responds to social signals of safety and belonging by activating regenerative pathways. Consider the man who loses his spouse after 50 years. Statistics show his health often deteriorates rapidly, not from grief alone, but because his primary source of daily human contact is gone. The men who weather this transition successfully immediately establish new patterns of regular social engagement. Their bodies receive different signals, life continues, meaning persists, and their physical appearance reflects this reality. Cognitive decline isn't inevitable, it's optional. The notion that your brain must deteriorate with age is perhaps the most destructive myth in modern gerontology. I've studied men who maintained laser-sharp mental acuity into their 90s, and their secret isn't genetics, it's cognitive challenge. Your brain operates on a simple principle: use it or lose it. Neural connections that aren't regularly activated get pruned away. This isn't theory, it's observable neurobiology. Men who look youngest relative to their age invariably maintain rigorous mental engagement. They force themselves to learn new skills. They deliberately seek intellectual discomfort. I counseled a retired engineer who complained of memory issues and physical aging. His daily routine had become utterly predictable. His brain was receiving the same inputs day after day. We instituted what I called deliberate novelty, a structured approach to learning unfamiliar skills. He began studying a language. Within months, not only did his cognitive function improve, but his friends commented that he looked years younger. The mechanism is straightforward. Cognitive challenge increases blood flow to the brain. It stimulates the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which promotes the growth of new neurons. This cascades through your entire system. Your posture improves. Your facial expressions become more animated. Even your skin tone changes as microcirculation improves. Let's examine curiosity as an anti-aging medicine. Men who maintain childlike wonder about the world age more slowly than those who believe they already know everything. This isn't poetic, it's biological. Curiosity activates the dopaminergic system. It reduces cortisol. It improves sleep quality. All of these factors directly influence how quickly your body shows signs of aging. I've observed men who transformed their appearance by simply changing their relationship to knowledge. Instead of defending what they think they know, they embraced uncertainty. They asked questions. They admitted ignorance. This psychological shift had profound physiological consequences. Their faces became more mobile. Their eyes regained brightness. They literally looked younger. Now let's confront something deeper: transcendent purpose. Humans need meaning that extends beyond their immediate concerns. Men who maintain a connection to something larger than themselves, whether through spiritual practice, creative work, or community service, show measurable differences in their aging trajectories. The research is compelling. Those with a sense of transcendent purpose show lower levels of inflammatory markers. Their telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes that shorten with age, degrade more slowly. Even their posture reflects this inner reality. They stand straighter, move with more confidence, and occupy space differently. I worked with a 78-year-old who had lost his sense of purpose after retirement. His health was deteriorating rapidly. The intervention wasn't medical, it was existential. We identified where he could contribute meaningfully. He began mentoring at-risk youth. Within 6 months, the change in his appearance was striking. Not because he was trying to look younger, but because his cells were receiving different signals about his place in the world. This brings us to our final exploration: how your environment and daily habits create either accelerated aging or sustained youthfulness. Because the spaces you inhabit and the routines you maintain literally reshape your biology, stress is the silent accelerator of aging. Your body cannot distinguish between running from a predator and sitting in traffic. Both trigger the same cascade of stress hormones that directly accelerate cellular aging. The men I've studied who maintain youthful appearance into advanced age have mastered one critical skill: stress management. When cortisol becomes chronically elevated, it literally reshapes your face. The skin thins, fat redistributes, collagen breaks down. I've observed men age decades in appearance during periods of unmanaged stress, not because time passed faster, but because their biochemistry was creating an internal environment hostile to cellular repair. I worked with a 70-year-old executive who looked 85. His cortisol levels were 3 times normal. We implemented what I call strategic restoration, deliberate practices to activate the parasympathetic nervous system multiple times daily. Within 4 months, the transformation was remarkable. His face regained fullness. The deep lines around his eyes softened. His posture straightened. This wasn't cosmetic, it was biochemical. The body cannot distinguish between physical and psychological stress. Both trigger identical inflammatory cascades. The men who age most gracefully have learned to identify their stress triggers and intervene before the damage cascades, not through avoidance but through psychological tools that transform their relationship to stressors. Now, let's examine environmental optimization. The spaces you inhabit literally reshape your biology. Chaotic environments trigger low-level stress responses. Organized spaces signal safety to your nervous system. Men who maintain order in their physical surroundings show measurably different biomarkers of aging. I've counseled men who transformed their appearance simply by transforming their living spaces, not through expensive renovations, but through deliberate organization that reduced visual complexity. Their sleep improved, their cortisol normalized. Even their posture changed as their bodies received different environmental signals about their safety and control. Consider the impact of natural light. Men who spend most of their time under artificial lighting show disrupted circadian rhythms that accelerate aging. Those who structure their days around natural light cycles, even briefly, maintain better hormone balance, sleep architecture, and cellular repair mechanisms. One 75-year-old I worked with made just one change. He spent 30 minutes outside shortly after waking. Within weeks, his sleep improved dramatically. His skin tone evened, the bags under his eyes diminished, his energy level increased. This wasn't placebo effect. It was his body responding to proper light signals that regulated dozens of downstream biological processes. Finally, let's consider the cumulative power of daily rituals. The men who age most gracefully aren't pursuing dramatic interventions. They're engaging in small, consistent practices that, performed daily over decades, create profound biological differences. I've observed this pattern repeatedly. It's not the occasional heroic effort that preserves youthfulness, but the mundane daily habits that seem almost insignificant in isolation. The morning walk, the evening reading, the regular social engagement, the consistent sleep schedule. None remarkable alone, yet together they create a biological environment where aging slows measurably. One 82-year-old I studied maintained the appearance and energy of a man 20 years younger. His secret wasn't exotic. It was consistency. For 50 years he followed the same fundamental pattern: early rising, physical movement, meaningful work, social connection, intellectual challenge, adequate rest. This wasn't rigidity, it was rhythm. His cells responded to this predictable pattern by optimizing repair mechanisms. Your daily choices aren't just habits, they're instructions to your biology. Every meal, every interaction, every moment of rest or stress is signaling to your cells how to respond. The men who look youngest at advanced ages have simply been giving their bodies better instructions consistently for decades. The truth about aging is both simpler and more profound than society acknowledges. Youth isn't chronological. It's psychological, physical, social, and spiritual. The choices you make today don't just influence how you'll feel tomorrow. They rewire your entire biological reality. The chaos of passive aging leads inexorably to decay, while the order of deliberate living creates resilience that manifests visibly in your appearance. Make no mistake, this isn't vanity, it's vitality. Every day you stand at a crossroads between resignation and responsibility. The men who appear decades younger than their peers have simply chosen the harder path, consistently over thousands of small decisions. They've embraced the burden of consciousness rather than retreating from it. Their younger appearance isn't the goal, it's the side effect of a life properly lived. Ask yourself this: are you aging by default or by design? The difference isn't just visible to others, It's the fundamental distinction between existing and truly living. The choice, as always, is yours alone to make.